James Bruce was a Caithness character from Dunbeath. It's believed his mother, Margaret MacGregor, never married, but his father was registered as John Bruce of Hoostry, so he took his surname. When her son was born, and as soon as she held her baby in her arms, Margaret gave him the nickname of Gollie, and he was known by this for the rest of his life. As time passed, Gollie and his mother had to leave their croft, although the reason for this has been lost over time, but they found a small piece of land not far from the croft, in a green hollow in the common grazing ground of Hoostry, where they built a hut. It was low-roofed and rudimentary. Gollie and his mother lived there with their dog Diamond. They had little money, and the house was sparsely furnished. As he grew into childhood, many locals noticed he had a want, but his education was minimal due to the family's circumstances. He slept on the floor on a mattress of hay or heather, while the wind howled through the house. Places like Latherinwheel, Rangag and Leibster were alien to him, and as for Wick or Thurso, they were exotic cities never to be visited. The world to him was the land he could see. He always saw his name as noble, as what was more noble than the name of Bruce. When he interacted with his neighbours, he always held back, not wishing to bring down his royal line to that of the commoner. He would converse only with his mother, as she was his equal, and when she died, he would make up conversations and talk to himself. He would tell himself such tidbits as, "Bella Simpson's in love with you, James," then say, "Oh, you're joking," and replying, "No, not I. I saw her looking at you today." And so the conversation continued until at last he conceded, "A woman doesn't hook a high-born gentleman every day." Gollie collected items, not valuables, but tin pails. He saw the local tinklers as merchant princes, and when they called at his house, they seldom left without extra cash in their pockets, with Gollie purchasing a pail for 4p or 6p. They varied from small pails to large ones, old and new, rusty and shiny, plain and coloured. Along with bottomless pails and holed pails, they all adorned his hallway. Being so poor, Gollie would pass the time of day speaking to his neighbours, partly to while away the hours, but also to get alms. Eventually, when the Poor Law was passed, he was entitled to an allowance from rates, which boosted his finances in ways he'd never known. When he had to pay for something, he would first lay his hat at his feet on the ground, then place his hand in his pocket and pull out a long stocking. He untied it and let the money fall into the hat, bent down and retrieved the amount he needed. Gollie was said never to go to church and wasn't a religious man, except for attending once. The authorities felt his little house wasn't suitable for him and that he should be living in more modern accommodation in a more civilised part of the county. All he'd known was a little cottage at Hoostry, and he liked his hermit life, but he was forced to leave. In his new home, he was afforded a proper bed from the parochial board, but instead he chose to sleep on the floor as he'd always done. One night, as he lay there, something black, tiger-like and sleek skittered about the room. It moved closer to him, its hot breath on his face and its eyes lighting up like lanterns. For the first time, he prayed. He said, "What is man's chief end?" At this, the intruder took fright and left. After speaking to his neighbours, a trap was set for the next night, and the following morning, a polecat was in its grasp. Taking it as a warning, Gollie decided to get his house in order. He began sleeping in his bed, as he decided polecats didn't like beds, and on the Sunday, attended church. That service was enough, and he never returned. In another story regards religion, Gollie went to Dunbeath Castle to inspect the repair work being carried out by masons. They told him the devil was hampering their work, throwing their tools about, throwing up dust into their eyes, and other malicious acts. That morning, they told him, they had seen the devil and chased him up to the turrets, hammering the breath out of him. They went on, they had cut him up into unequal pieces and burned them, placing each bit in a separate grave. The information heartened Gollie, as knowing the devil was dead, there was no need to attend church. Throughout his life, Gollie never touched alcohol, but he loved tea. He didn't use cups, however, but a large bowl, and used a tinkler-made horn spoon as a teaspoon to stir in his brown sugar. He was also fond of potatoes and herring, but his staple was oatmeal brose, with potatoes mashed among it. Once, he met an itinerant photographer and had his photograph taken. He called it his face and was very proud of it. It depicted him as having long features, a protruding lower lip, and dull eyes. When Gollie got old, he was placed with a family in Latheron who treated him well, were kind to him, and looked after him. He never saw his beloved Hoostry again. It was while he was there he died on 14th December 1875 following a 12-day illness. Before his death, he told his confidants that he wanted to be buried in the Strath of Dunbeath, telling them he'd get up after death and walk there himself if need be. However, he was buried in Latheron. His death certificate cited him as being 101 years old. However, around 10 years after his death, Gollie's name was discovered in the baptismal records of the parish of Latheron. He'd been baptised on 22nd March 1770, so at the time of his death, he was in fact 105. He was missed by the locals, as no more did they see him with his tam o' shanter, and the most harmless and interesting of their local worthies had left a gaping hole in the district. He would join the ranks of other Caithness characters, such as Willie Wagtail, Moosey, and Robbie Rosie. If you enjoyed this episode of Scotland's History, please like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, thank you for watching.